Nathaniel Dodson, Tutvid.com. Today we're going to take a look at the pen tool in Photoshop, which is a very, very powerful tool, but it can also be very frustrating when you get started. So part of the reason that it's important to learn about the pen tool is because the pen tool allows you to make complex selections with a ton of precision and the ability to always go back and edit them, because what you're really doing is creating a path. For instance, if I wanted to change just the red color of this Ferrari, I could create an adjustment layer and slide the hue, but the problem is I'm changing the color of kind of everything in the scene, even though I'm targeting just the color of red and also the color of magenta because of the particular color palette in this image. So even with the targeting here in this hue saturation adjustment layer, I'm still changing all kinds of colors around the image and I don't like it. So the pen would allow me to select very precisely all of the metal on this car and change the color of that, or the body metal I should say. So we're going to take a look at that, but also part of the importance of the pen tool is you can create shapes, right, just like this, and fill them with any color you like. So we created a shape layer, and this is a vector shape, despite the fact that Photoshop is a raster editing program, bitmap graphics, right? When you zoom something too large, it gets blurry, it gets fuzzy, it's no good. Well, vector, you can scroll or scale as big as you want or as small as you want, and it's still very, very sharp. So that's also very important as well. The pen tool, extremely useful. So let's take a look at it, and we're going to kind of go through this step by step, and hopefully by the end of this, you're going to have a much more solid understanding of the pen tool. So when you find the pen tool, it's located here in your toolbar, and you can click and hold and see here's pen tool. The hotkey is the letter P, and you also have a freeform pen tool, add and delete anchor point tools, and the convert point tool. Now we're going to touch on add and delete anchor point and the convert point tool a little bit later in this tutorial. Those are going to have to do with editing our paths. For now, we're going to quickly touch on the freeform pen tool and spend most of the time talking about the pen tool proper. So to start off, freeform pen tool. Basically, this is the pen tool, which works maybe more like you would expect the pen tool to work, right? You click and drag, and wherever you draw, boom, you've created that path. And it is a path. If we go to the paths panel, see, there's a path right there. Looks good. Well, I don't like that. I don't want that. That's not what I need. I don't really ever use the freeform pen tool. Very rarely, I should say, actually, do I use it, because there is a feature. If you look up here to the control bar, if you tick on magnetic, this is actually surprisingly powerful. So we have this orange bag here. If I click and just start dragging my pen tool, I'm not clicking, I'm just dragging it along the edge, and my pen tool is dropping anchor points wherever I need them. And this works much like the magnetic lasso tool, if you're familiar with that or if you've used that. And you can see up here where it was following the edge, it really does a great job of following your edges. So if you're just trying to get a rough vector shape very quickly of something, magnetic with the freeform pen tool may very well be the way to go. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about the regular good old pen tool. Now, when you start working with a pen tool, you can choose to either draw a shape or a path. Most of the time I'm working with a path, because you can always make a shape out of a path later, and a path, it's just not filling itself with black or giving itself a stroke or anything like that as you are creating the path. So we're going to use a path here, and the first thing we're going to do is just take a look at how the pen tool works. We're going to ignore all of the rest of the options that we have in the control bar. We're not even going to worry about them. Basically, the pen tool works by clicking once and you drop an anchor point. When you drop that anchor point, you click another time to drop another anchor point. You now have obviously a path between those two anchor points. You can click again to drop another anchor point, and then click on that last anchor point to rejoin the paths, and you have a solid work area shape like this. Actually, I'm going to change this to just combine shapes. All right, so now that we have this, I can select my shape here, and I can drag it around. Don't worry, you'll be set to default here. I'm just adjusting a couple little things. With this shape, I can drag this around. You can see it's here in my paths panel. I can double click on it to save it as a path. I can just name it box if I like. Point is, I have a path. You see, it's not adding a layer. In fact, if I deselect the path in the paths panel, it just goes away. So what's the point of that? Well, I can always load this as a selection by Command or Control clicking it. So that's great. It's a very easy way to save a selection, especially, again, complex selections that you're drawing out using the pen tool. One of the other things I can do is select this with the path active, and I can do something like add a filled layer. So new fill layer, solid color, let's say. Name it whatever I want. And the layer is automatically just going to fill the path, instead of what normally happens where it just fills kind of everything because it's not constrained by a path. So that might not mean very much to you right now, but it's good to just file that away in the back of your mind. Now, here comes the more important stuff. how do I use the pen tool to create selections? Well, let's go ahead and just draw a selection around our bag. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to do a very rough selection. I'm going to click once. I'm going to click twice. I'm going to click here, here, and so on and so forth. And I'm just going to follow. I'm holding the space bar down now so I can drag. It's sort of a spring-loaded hotkey. I can drag all the way down to the bottom, click there, and then click here. And I'm just going to, there are a lot of straight edges, so this is actually a relatively easy shape to draw around. Typically, when you're using the pen tool, you want to use as few anchor points as possible. Just tends to make your paths a lot cleaner. I'm actually going to drop a point here in the middle, and then drop a point here at the top, point, a point, a point, and so on and so forth. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to click to rejoin the path. And now what I can do, let's say I wanted to make this selection around the bag. Obviously, it's very difficult to see the path because it's sort of blending into our orange bag. No worries, though. I can go to Paths. I can Command or Control click the thumbnail for that work path. Actually, I'm going to go to Panel Options and just make these thumbnails a little larger. I can Command or Control click the path, like so. Go back to my original layer, hit Command or Control J to pop it up onto its own layer. And now if I grab the Move tool, I can just move this bag wherever I want. Now, obviously, we would need to cut the white out from around the handle area, but you can see very quickly we just cut this bag right out using the pen tool. So that very, very easily, or in a second or a minute, is how you use the pen tool. All right, so let's now take a look at adding angles and curves and things like that to your path. So we're going to do that by checking out our Ferrari document. I'm actually going to ditch the hue saturation adjustment layer that I had started right there. And now, obviously, this is going to be a much, much more complex selection. So again, we're just going to start with the pen tool. We're going to make sure that we're drawing with a path. We don't really want to make a shape. Remember, we can always make a shape out of a path. And really, a shape is still a path. But again, we just don't want all of that fill and stroke and all of that nonsense in our way. So once we've done that, no need to create a new layer or anything like that. I'm going to zoom right in here on the front fender. And I'm just going to begin drawing shapes wherever I need them. I'm going to begin, actually, my plan, let me just explain. I'm going to draw all the way around the very outside of the car, all right? Then I'll come back and I'll cut out the windshield and cut out the passenger window, cut out the headlight, cut out the turn signal, and cut out this little grill area. And again, I'll explain all of that to you as we go. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this car out right now. And in order for you to understand how we would go about cutting out an object like that, we need to understand how not only to draw straight lines with a pen tool, but also how to manipulate them and to sort of bend the lines a little bit. So here's how we go about doing that. I'm going to move out a little bit. And by the way, I've got my pen tool set here to this rubber band option, which I believe this is new, or actually this little cogwheel is new to CS6. In older versions of Photoshop, I believe you'd have to double click on the pen tool icon here to bring up the option. Rubber band basically just allows me to see where my line is going. See, I don't have any line there. If I tick on rubber band, however, I get this nice line. So it sort of telegraphs where I'm going. So let's just undo that real quick. What I want to do is I want to show you how to sort of bend lines. So we can actually move away from that corner for a brief moment. You click once, and then you click and hold when you place your next point and just pull with the mouse, right? See what I'm doing? And I pull out what are called tangent handles. And these handles allow me to manipulate this point. Think of it as like a little train station into which your path is running. And wherever the point is angled, this tangent handle is angled, that will affect the arc of the curve. So now I have another curve coming out of this point because, well, I've got two tangent handles. This tangent handle on the left just affects the line coming into that side of that anchor point, whereas the tangent handle here on the right is going to affect the line coming out on the right. So now if I click and hold again, now you can see I can put multiple bends in one bit of path, and that's because I have, I'm going to grab here the path or the direct selection tool, excuse me. I have here just on this little bit of path, you can see I have this tangent handle, right, which is affecting right over here this bit of path. You can see how it's just affecting that, right? And I also have this tangent handle, which is affecting that same bit of path in a much different way. So again, using the pen tool, I could explain and we could get into the math behind why this behaves the way it does. It's just a lot easier and a lot faster to play around with the pen tool. And the more you use the pen tool, the faster and more proficient you will become. So I'm going to undo all of this real quick, and I want to show you one last thing with the pen tool. So in order to get multiple bends on your first bit of path, you can click and drag and start dragging tangent handles out of your original anchor handle or anchor point before you even drag a line. See? And now I can get that sort of dual bending action. So let's go ahead and use these skills. Whoop, what did I just do? Let's go ahead and use these skills to go ahead and trace around this Ferrari. So I'm going to click once, and I'm going to pull out a nice long tangent handle. Again, just remember, you want to use as few anchor points as possible. Now you can see the car is bending, so right about here, I'm going to click and I'm going to drag in a new handle. You can see how my anchor or my line here is running along the car. Now for right here, I need to sort of pull this handle down because you can see if I add a point here before we sharply head up and I pull, you can see I'm getting this bizarre twist action here on the path. I don't want that. So what you need to do is hold down the Alt or Option key on the Mac and select that end of the tangent handle. All right, so I'm going to select it and I'm going to pull it down so it's sort of pointing in the direction that I want my path to go. And I'm just going to click, let that go. And then I'm going to click here and I'm going to pull just a slight bit of an angle just for that little bit of the path. And then here, because I'm making sort of a sharp turn with my path, I need this anchor handle to go all the way back into the anchor point. You can do that by just holding down Alt or Option and simply click on that anchor point. Just gets rid of that tangent handle that's in the way. And now I'm going to select, I'm actually going to zoom out just a touch. I'm going to select up here, and I'm going to drag this out until I'm right about where I need to be. I'm sort of guessing. But you can see just like that, it just follows the contour of the wheel well beautifully. And then I'm going to select over here, sort of on the inside of that wheel well. And I think I took the point a little bit too far. So Command or Control Z, like I just did there, undo or undoes that. And I'm going to pull that up. Now you can see the anchor point, or the path, I should say. It's very difficult to see, but it's actually way up above the red here. It's kind of running along here. So I'm going to adjust that by holding down my Alt or Option key. And I want to grab the tangent handle that has to do with this anchor point here. And that tangent handle is sticking out way up here. So I'm going to hold down my Alt or Option key. And I'm just going to pull this straight back down, kind of until that line is back where we need it to be. So just right about there. You can see now the line is far short. But here now we would grab this tangent handle and we would pull this up, 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 until it's about where we need it to be. So right about, let's just say right about there. All right, like so. Now, you can see Photoshop still hasn't forgotten where we are. Now we need to just follow this right along here. I'm going to pull this up just a little bit, like so. I'm going to hold down Alt or Option to suck that tangent handle back in. I'm going to follow the contour of the outer portion of the tire, just like so. Again, now because we're not continuing around the wheel kind of in the same curved pattern, but we're heading straight back here along the body of the car. See that big sort of swoosh that's going to be happening? We don't want that. Alt or Option, click on that tangent handle, and boom, we go straight back along the car. Actually, I need to just bring this out a little bit more. All right, straight back along the car like so. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and just do the rest of this car, and then I'm going to just speed the video up, and when I get back, we're going to cut out the headlight and the windshield and all of that good stuff. So I will see you in a moment. And now here we are back at the beginning, right where we started. But check this out. When I hover over the original anchor point, you can see how my path kind of goes crazy there. The reason that's happening is because this original anchor point, remember we pulled that large tangent handle out because we wanted to sort of gradually bend our initial piece of path. Well, we don't really want that to happen. In this case, it doesn't matter, but it's an opportunity for me to show you how to get rid of that. You do that by just holding the Alt or Option key and clicking to join your path. And it sort of ignores the tangent handle sticking out of that first original anchor point. So now that we've done this, we've sort of selected the entire car, but we need to go ahead and cut out the front turn signal, the headlight, the little grill here on the front, as well as the windshield and things like that. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to do it here on the front grill. So what we're going to do is we're going to, again, use the pen tool. And this time we're going to look to the control bar and we're going to set the pen tool to subtract front shape. Now, what is this going to do? Well, let's bring up our paths panel and check this out. See the path we have? You can see that it is basically an outline of a car. Well, just watch what happens here if I draw a big rectangle across my document like this. You see what that's doing over there in the Paths panel? See how it's just sort of cutting that huge swath out of the middle? That's because we have it set to subtract front shape. I'm going to undo that because that's not what I want to do. But that does cue me into the valuable little bit of information that this is going to cut the shapes that I'm about to draw out of my original path. So here we go. We're going to select, pull out. We're going to go ahead and just curve this right around here through this little grill area. Boom, just like that. Drag it right up, and here's kind of a tight corner. Again, just remember, fewer anchor handle points, probably the better off, or certainly the cleaner your path will be. So that's just something you want to do. I'm holding on the Alt or Option key, by the way, to modify my anchor points. And then we're going to click there. I'm going to hold on the Alt or Option key and just connect that point. So you can see there in our work path, we've cut out the grill. Now I'm going to go ahead very quickly and I'm going to cut out the grill and the headlight and the windshield and all of that good stuff. Okay, and there we have it. We have now created quite a complex selection where we've even cut out big areas using the pen tool. And I just sort of sped through some of the areas where I was doing sort of the same thing over and over and over again. And again, it's going to be something where you really need to practice. But again, use that Alt or Option key. That's going to allow you to go in and edit the path later. Now, before we go ahead and affect a color change on this image, what I'm going to show you is how to go in and just sort of tweak the path, because there are a couple areas that maybe I want to adjust and make them a little bit more perfect or make them better because they're far from perfect. One of those areas is right back here at the back of the window. I want to make sure I include this nice dark area in my path selection as well. So I'm going to do that by going ahead and using the Add Anchor Point tool. So this is going to allow me to just click and add an anchor point right here onto the path, and then I'm going to drag this anchor point out. Actually, I need to add 2 anchor points. So each of these anchor points are going to go for each of those corners. So what I can do now is use my direct selection tool, select the first anchor point, and drag it out into its place. You can see it's way out of whack. It's very strange. I'm going to grab the second point and drag it into its place as well. Now I can use the tangent handles, and I can just sort of twist them and move them to create kind of the path that I need to create. So I'm going to grab this. I'm using the Alt or Option key, remember, using that to allow me to move one tangent handle without moving the other one, just like so. There we have it. Very nice. All right, and then I'm going to grab this. I'm just going to make one little adjustment here, just like that. All right, and there we have used the Add Anchor Point tool to go ahead and just expand what was a current path and add something else to it. Now, what else we may want to do is just to do very simple changes. All you're really going to do is just use that direct selection tool, select it, and then use your Alt or Option key and just grab, or you don't have to use Alt or Option, excuse me, when you're using the direct selection tool. You can just grab a tangent handle, and it's going to allow you to move that handle without really messing up everything around it. So it's really actually pretty nice. So I'm just going to adjust all of this here. Just try to pull this kind of into shape so it looks a little bit better. There we go. That's more like what I'm looking for. All right, so just like that, you can go over your path time and time and time again and continue adjusting it and tweaking it and making it better. Now here's what's really cool. We can go ahead, we have this path selected. We really don't even need to create a selection, because if we go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, or actually let's do a fill layer. Let's go Solid Color Fill Layer, and we'll name this Car Colorize. There we go, and you can see how it's just covering our car with a solid color. We're going to go ahead and make this car, maybe we'll go with a green. So I'm going to go with a muted green here. Really the intensity of the color is not going to matter a huge amount. And you can see what it's done. It's given us this shape layer that is only covering the car. Now this is really important because, see, when we deselect, the car's green. We're going to actually make it look half decent in a second. But the cool thing about this is if you want to ever change the color of the car, all you have to do is select the layer and Alt Backspace or Option Delete on the Mac, and you can just fill it with whatever your foreground color is, or you can double click on the thumbnail and it brings up the color picker and you can set any color you like. So there's a green, and then let's just set this blend mode maybe to hue, or maybe even color, something like that. Deselect, and you can see we've changed the color of the car. Now this is a little bit too much of a vibrant green, so again, let's desaturate it maybe a little bit, darken it maybe a little bit, something like that. And again, playing around with different hues and the lighting and everything like that, and you can do a whole ton of work to very specific areas. And again, we can always go back in, even on this layer, right? We can go ahead and use our direct selection tool, and we can adjust this. Let's say we we drag this down below the wheel, and it's going to automatically fill that with green. So it's sort of like having a very live color layer that you can do all kinds of adjustments and things like that to. And this is one of the primary reasons to really get used to using the pen tool, is creating selections like this, because let's say maybe you don't need to change the color of a car like this or create a solid color adjustment layer. Let's just Command or Control click the work path, go back to our original layer, hit Command or Control J. You can see that's just going to cut the body of the car out off of our layer like so, and we could move this to a new document. Let's just open up a new document here. I'm going to grab the car body and we drag it over to a new document, and just like this, we have the body of that Ferrari kind of cut out of that original image and onto its own document. So again, pen tool, very, very important. A little tricky to learn how to use, but once you get kind of the hang of it, it really gets pretty simple. What I would urge you to do is go ahead and spend a ton of time using it. And one last thing before I let you go is the Convert Point tool. We didn't really use it in the tutorial, so I'm going to show you here how it works. Let's say you have a shape like this, all right, with several points in it, all right? And I'm actually going to create a new layer here. Let's just fill the layer with white to make this easier to see, all right? Nice and simple. We've got this layer here, or this path, with these 3 points. Let's say we want to convert this back to a triangle. Well, how do I quickly get rid of all of these tangent handles? How do I get them to all suck back in? Well, all you have to do is hit them with the Convert Point tool. It converts the point from a rounded point or a point with the tangent handles out, click, to a point that is back to sort of a default unedited, untouched point. And then you can grab that same corner and you can pull it back into any different angle or adjustment that you would like. So the Convert Point tool can be very, very useful as well. So that is it for this one. That is a primer on how to use the pen tool, how to do all kinds of great things with the pen tool. Again, the number one thing that you're going to need to do is go out and just start playing with the pen tool. Just start using it on different projects and things like that. Have fun with it. Remember, check out tutvid.com for more great video tutorials. And that is it for this one. Nathaniel Dodson, tutvid.com. And that's the way it is. Thanks for checking out the video, guys. Make sure you share it with your friends. And of course, subscribe to the Tutvid YouTube channel. And also go ahead and hit that little like button for the video. That always helps out. And there's also an Instagram channel or feed or whatever full of cool little tutorials, tips and tricks, things like that you can check out. It's instagram.com/tutvid. Make sure you go over there and follow it. And also, tutvid.com, you can sign up for the free newsletter and get all kinds of exclusive content and goodies through that each and every month. Thanks for watching, guys.